beautiful bill, trying to make sense of what's happening in the debate between Elon Musk, Stephen Miller, Rand Paul, and Donald Trump. 2, some of the most salacious stories in pop culture, including an actor from King of the Hill murdered in his front yard. Was it because of hate? Was it because of homophobia? Or was it because he was carrying a pitchfork, threatening people's lives through the streets of San Antonio? With Kennedy. 3, why are coaches who take their team to the finals, the semifinals, the Eastern Conference or Western Conference finals in the NBA and the NHL on the hot seat or getting fired? Have we gotten impatient or have they lost the locker room? It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page, every Monday through Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Make sure you set a reminder at YouTube or on Facebook, and that way you can hang with us Monday through Thursday. Jump into the comments section and become a member of the Willisha. If you're listening on terrestrial radio, we hope you will subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review if you think it's so deserved by heading over to Spotify or on Apple. I'm flying a little blind right now here on the Will Cain Show. We got our buddy Matt sitting in for Two-A-Days Dan, who's come down with a bad case of the flu or the bronchitis. We've got Tinfoil Pat, Matt Dahl. At times we've had our buddy Justin hanging out as well. And I'm assuming everything's going fine out there to the world. Everything is broadcasting technologically. Let me see, though, if we can check in back in New York and see exactly what's happening. Matt, I know you're sitting in today. Dan, not normally something that you do. So I'm pushing you here to bring up some technological issues right off the bat. But
hey
how are we doing? Are we doing all right?
How you doing? It's good to see you, man.
Broadcasting. Good to see you.
We
are we
on.
Broadcasting? Okay, we are broadcasting. That's
Yes.
good. I
Yes.
don't have the music or anything coming into my ears, but I can hear you, and that suggests that I'll be able to do a show here today and perhaps talk to the guests as well.
I hope so.
We got to wish our boy a little bit of health and good luck. He's not even responding to texts here lately, so we wish our best to Two-A-Days Dan. But I'm glad we're broadcasting. I'm glad we're hanging out with you on this Wednesday, and that means we need to get to it all with story number 1. The big, beautiful bill has descended into one big, beautiful fight. Everyone on the right worried about various aspects of the bill. In fact, it seems to be cratering instead of gaining steam on passing through the United States Senate. Here's a little bit of what's happened just in the past 24 to 48 hours. Marjorie Taylor Greene in the Congress, she has posted that she would not now, in retrospect, vote for the one big, beautiful bill. She is concerned that the bill, as you can see in this post on X, regulates states' ability to regulate AI, artificial intelligence. She wants states' ability to regulate AI. Now that she's read on page 278, roughly, of the bill, it's always a problem when we pass gigantic bills. In the famed words of Nancy Pelosi, we'll find out what's in the bill after we pass it. MTG has read it now after voting for it, and she posts full transparency. I did not know about this section on page 278 of the One Big Beautiful Bill that strips states the right to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years. I am adamantly opposed to this, and it's a violation of states' rights, and I would have voted no if I had known this was in there. So while Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to regret her vote and probably have a chance to voice that if it goes back to the House once it's changed in the Senate, it first has to get through the Senate. Take a look at this headline from Politico. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis wants major changes to Trump's tax cut on tips. The senator is pushing for a different approach that would treat people with similar earnings more equally. Now, this is all going on while it not yet has passed the Senate. But there's a fight taking place, well, on X, in the public discourse, and quite honestly, on the Will Cain Show, on the Fox News channel, about whether or not the big, beautiful bill saves or spends money, whether or not it reduces or explodes the deficit. Elon Musk has posted on X that it's a complete abomination. He does not like the One Big Beautiful Bill. This is a huge departure, sidestep from the Trump administration for really one of Donald Trump's right-hand men in Elon Musk. Now, that has led to this kind of post from Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller has been posting about the One Big Beautiful Bill on his feed. He's always an intelligent voice. And he says, for those that want to break it up now and try to pass separate bills, no, it has to be done as OMBBB. It has to be done once as One Big Beautiful Bill. He says, for those saying do separate bills, each would then require 60 votes, needing then Chuck Schumer instead of 50. Reconciliation is a special process each fiscal year where you can make fiscal changes with 50 votes. That's why the Big Beautiful Bill is the vehicle for tax cuts, deportations, and welfare reform. But fiscal hawks and Elon Musk are concerned with what's happening to the deficit. And as I mentioned, this debate is spilling over onto the Will Cain Show, as it should, as is by design. Ideally here at 4 o'clock Eastern time, we would have a debate between Elon Musk and Stephen Miller. But yesterday, we had Senator Rand Paul, who is opposed to this big bill, and he said the following on the Will Cain Show.
But to put things in perspective, the bill increases spending for the military and for border over $300 billion. The DOGE cuts, which aren't in this bill, were about $200 billion. So this bill actually increases in the first couple of years spending more than all the DOGE cuts combined. My objection to the bill isn't about the tax cuts, and it isn't about those calculations. My objection to the bill is they're going to raise the debt ceiling more than they ever have, $5 trillion, and that this will be the largest increase in the debt ceiling ever. And if the Republicans all vote for it, the Republicans will own the debt.
And to that, President Trump then, again, continuing in this one big beautiful fight, posted the following about Senator Rand Paul. He said that Paul votes no on everything, but never has any practical or constructive ideas. His ideas are actually crazy. Parentheses, losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. This is a big growth bill. All right, that's the fight. Let's step back and see if we can not just highlight heat, but shed some light. I don't know about you, but I've been doing this for quite some time. I've quite honestly been involved in and around politics for 15 years. And budget talk makes your eyes glaze over. It sounds like white noise. It gives you tired head. And that is in part because it is so objectively confusing. Now, that is not to say that I don't care, nor you wouldn't care, about the annual deficit and the growing and concerning debt of the United States. For the first time in forever, many on Wall Street are now saying that the United States is not a good bet to fulfill its debt. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the United States will never default on its debt. But when we have these discussions, whether or not it's a Democrat or a Republican as president, and we have fights about debt and deficit, it is quite honestly confusing. Although I'm willing to accept, if you're in the comments section right now at YouTube or on Facebook, or you're listening on radio, I'm willing to accept an accusation that, oh, Will, you're stupid. But in the off chance that you feel the same way, I just wanted to take a step back and see this from 30,000 feet. Okay, I don't want to take anything for granted. I don't want to be pedantic or patronizing. But I do want to take this as much as possible from a sky-high view so that we all understand what is a really important debate for the United States. So let's all just make sure we're on the same page so we understand the difference between debt and deficit. Deficit is the annual amount of money that we spend over and above the amount of revenue we take in the federal government. It's like running things up on your credit card. How much every year do you run up on your credit card? The debt is the total accumulation of deficits that we run up on an annual basis. Our U.S. government debt today stands halfway through 2025 as though by the end of this fiscal year, it will be at $36 trillion. Okay, in 2024, we stood at 34. In 2023, we stood at 33. In 2022, we were at $30 trillion in debt. Let me skip a few years and go back so you can see. If we just go back 6 years to 2019, our total debt was $22 trillion. If we skip back another 5 years to 2015, now 10 years removed from today, our U.S. total debt was $18 trillion. So in a matter of 1 decade, we are on pace to double our national debt. Here's what we should know, though, okay? That is not a completely fair assessment of our fiscal health. Now, let me explain to you why. The more money you make, the more ability you have to take on debt. All right? If you were making $100,000 a year, it would be one thing for you to take on, a house, $1 million house with an $800,000 mortgage. We all understand that. That's an incredibly scary amount of debt for someone at that level of income. But if you have an income of $2 million a year, that same nominal number of debt, $800,000, is much more healthy and safe. The point is, if your income grows, your total debt can grow. If the United States Treasury's revenues grow as represented by the growth of the United States economy, then our total debt can grow. So that's not the figure necessarily that spells out our fiscal health. It would rather be, you ever seen the stuff that says like, hey, never spend more than 30% of your income on your home, whether rent or mortgage. Well, that 30% produces a different number depending on your income, right? Well, we should measure debt as a percentage of our economy, as a percentage of GDP. You want to know what that looks like? Let's do some of that same calculation. 10 years ago, 2016, our deficit, our annual deficit as a percentage of GDP was 3.1%. Go to 2020. This is now COVID, end of Trump, beginning of Biden. Our annual deficit as a percentage jumped to 15%. It comes down now, and by 2025, it is at 6%. I'll give you some raw numbers as well because everybody spits around raw numbers. It's expected in 25, our deficit, that's how much we're going to spend in 1 year over what we bring in, is $1.9 trillion. Okay? That's up from last year and the year before. The peak was in 2020 and 2021 when we had deficits of $3 trillion and $2.7 trillion. But what matters is the percentage of GDP, both for debt and deficit. And what we have seen is that spiked incredibly in 20 and 21. It's come back down, but it has not come down to the 3% we were at 10 years ago. That 3% matters. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's plan is 3-3-3. He wants a deficit of 3%, economic growth of 3%, and I think he wants, 3 million barrels a day in production and growth, something like that when it comes to oil and gas. What I'm getting at in all of this is trying to give you a sense, okay, what is it something that we want to accomplish? It'd be nice if we just ran budget even, right? But you probably don't. Do I? I don't, meaning I have a home loan, as you do. That means we have some measure of debt. We'd like to think our assets outpace our debt, but we do take on debt. And debt is not an unhealthy thing to have. You can have debt if you can afford it, and you can afford it according to your income, or in a government's case, revenues and assets. The question is, does the one big beautiful bill blow out our deficits and our debt to an unhealthy level, or does it keep us in the range of fiscal health? Stephen Miller contends that the CBO and Rand Paul and Thomas Massey and Elon Musk are counting the extension of tax cuts that are in place today as a cost that jacks up the deficit. It's confusing because, if you tax less, the federal government revenues go down, but that's the conditions under which we live today. We're talking about actually raising our taxes. So why is something we have today extended into the future going to raise our deficits, especially if, as Miller contends, we are going to cut spending? Now, Musk is unhappy because we're not cutting spending enough. Guys like Chip Roy or Thomas Massey want spending cut more. And that's reasonable. As we see, like right now they have a $9 billion rescission package to institute what should be hundreds and hundreds of billions in Doge cuts. It is reasonable with the Republican House, Senate, and presidency that you should be able to accomplish real cuts. Musk wanted $1 to $2 trillion in cuts. But there are North and Northeastern Republicans, who don't see it the same way as somebody from Alabama like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Kentucky like Thomas Massey or Rand Paul. And so it's a game of compromise. So the point is, in the end, I don't know how to read the bill and I don't think many people do. They're fighting about how you read the bill, how the CBO reads the bill, how Musk reads the bill, how Miller reads the bill, because so much of it is predicated on growth. If you cut taxes, the economy grows. That means you can sustain a healthier level of deficit and debt. But we always, as individuals and as a government, we always paint a rosy future. I'm always going to make more money. The economy's always going to grow. You can cut taxes, it's going to grow. But do you take on debt based upon those projections? Do you buy a home based upon what you think you're going to be making in 3 to 5 years? That's a scary place to be in. In the end, I don't have you. When someone sits in the seat that I sit in, and I think a lot of hosts and people will, give you the hard take, give you the hot take. You got to hold out. You got to cut. It's a bunch of rhinos if you don't. But I do know that there are people of differing points of view from different places that represent different people, and that's government, and that's compromise. But I don't know. I don't know if Musk is right. I don't know if Miller is right. I don't know if Trump is right. I don't know if Rand Paul makes a good point. But what I do know is this is your shot. I do know that. You're going to come out of the midterms with a better position than you're in today. You're going to have another situation where you have another opportunity to maximize your goals than you do today. And I do think Rand Paul has a point. If you are at maximal political power today, and this is maximal push that you can accomplish, you will begin to own the debt and deficit if your choices do reflect an unhealthy future. You have to be extreme. You have to make healthy choices. The Democrats have no interest in health. They're sitting here today screaming about the fact that Elon Musk is Pol Pot. I'm serious, literally. David Brooks of the New York Times compared him to Mao and Stalin and Pol Pot because USAID cuts, he says, have led to 300,000 deaths. This is the type of seriousness we're dealing with on the left. Democrats and the left. They will never cut. They will only always expand government until one day we are bust. So you can't just simply be better than Democrats. When you have maximal political power, you have to have maximal political push to put us on fiscal health. I hope that brought some light. The intention today wasn't that I would be able to add heat. The hot take for you to take home. But maybe, hopefully, without sounding like a preacher, a little bit of understanding on what it is this debate is all about and what it is we need to do to control debt and deficit. All right. Actor from King of the Hill is murdered in his front yard, and it is a story that touches on the culture war, but is really just one of the weirdest things you've ever heard. That and more with Kennedy next on The Will Cain Show.
Every hour of every day, Fox News Radio is there with the latest breaking news and information you rely on.
This is a Fox News Alert.
I'm Lisa Brady.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
With Fox News correspondents around the globe.
At the White House, Simon Owen in London.
On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The news that matters most to you. The top headlines, all in one place. Listen and follow the Fox News Hourly Update at foxnewspodcasts.com or ask your smart speaker to play Fox News. This June, the Fox News Radio Network marks 20 years of evolution in news delivery. Since our start, we brought you around-the-clock newscasts at the top of every hour. Hear our comprehensive hourly news updates or rapid one-minute updates featuring our dedicated anchors. We provide Fox News alerts, crucial business insights, and direct reports from our vast network of correspondents from New York to London. Experience 2 decades of relentless news gathering and expert analysis. That's the Fox News Radio Network at foxnewsradio.com.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday. Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you.
Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth strips the name of gay activist Harvey Milk from a Navy ship. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Hey, hit subscribe. We hope you will at Spotify or on Apple. And if you're sitting there on one of those platforms, we do think you should head on over and subscribe as well to Kennedy Saves the World at Fox News Podcast. She's also the host of the Kennedy Chronicles, the golden age of MTV through rose-colored glasses. And it is my colleague and friend, Kennedy, who joins us now. What's up, Kennedy?
Turn this up. There we
Hey,
go.
Kennedy.
Hi. Great to see me.
There you are. It's great to see you as well.
Thank
and great
you.
to hear you. So, hey, what do you think of this? I was like, in the pre-show meeting, I'm like, I don't know where Kennedy will be on our former colleague, now the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, here at the beginning of Pride Month, removing the name of Harvey Milk from a Navy ship. Now, really quickly for anybody listening, Harvey Milk, civil rights gay activist from San Francisco, the first openly gay politician, I believe, to be elected to citywide office in San Francisco. Famously, a movie was made about him starring Sean Penn. And as part of the John Lewis class of Navy ships, which every ship in the John Lewis class is named after some civil rights activist / hero, but it does include Ruth Bader Ginsburg and John Lewis himself and Harvey Milk.
Sure.
But Hegseth, as part of a review of the names of things under the Pentagon and an emphasis on, according to the Pentagon, the warrior class, has removed Harvey Milk. Kennedy.
I don't have a problem with this one. I think the naming and the unnaming and the renaming of things is, I think it is a massive distraction. And I think both sides do it just to get back at the other. I have a great deal of respect for Pete, and I certainly respect that his focus is on warriors and the people who wear the uniform and serve and pull triggers, and that is something that feels like it has been missing for a long time in the military, because if you're not concerned with the warriors, you're also certainly not going to be concerned with the veterans. And I think Pete has done really phenomenal work in that regard. And so I started digging into this because I was just like, oh, this is just some, politically correct token. But then you realize that Harvey Milk served honorably in the Navy. He was discharged honorably. He served for 4 years during the Korean War. He comes from a Navy family. My uncle served in the Navy in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. My nephew is currently enlisted in the Navy right now, serving very bravely somewhere far, far away. My sister-in-law, her brother, is a Master Chief on a submarine, and he's a real badass, and he is protecting us and keeping us safe. I don't have as much of a problem with Harvey Milk as some of the others. And as my sexy teenage boyfriend, I know that we have discussed this. He is a West Pointer, so he spends 80% of his time making fun of the Navy. So he would probably say that it is, of all of the branches of the armed forces, probably the gayest. So
I've heard those jokes.
He would celebrate a gay icon being emblazoned on the side of a Navy ship.
Okay. I think the only thing I would offer a little bit of a correction or rebuttal on, and it's not that I present myself as the world's foremost expert on Harvey Milk, is I don't think I'm not sure he got an honorable discharge.
That's what the reporting said. I saw it reported in two places. That
was like a voluntary discharge.
Honorably discharged. I mean, it could.
I thought it was something because he got in trouble. It wasn't dishonorable. You're right. It wasn't a dishonorable discharge, but I thought it was something short of an honorable discharge, wherein basically they asked him to leave because he was homosexual, and back then that was grounds. And so under the conditions that existed at the time, I don't know that he would have been. No,
they would at that time they would have dishonorably discharged him if it were because of his homosexuality.
I think that's what it's about, though. But look, that's.
I mean, I know people who were in their 40s who were dishonorably discharged because they were gay. And it's
homosexuality.
Yeah, and it's, come on, just.
Okay, so here's where I am.
If people
on
are
Harvey
tough
Milk,
and they can pass all the standards, who cares what they think about when they're in their little knapsack at night?
Okay, fine. I hear that point. Who cares what they think about? Let's put that one in our pocket and let's hold that, okay? Now, and I think most people agree with you. Who cares who you're attracted to? It is Pride Month. Everybody cares who you're attracted to. On both sides of this issue. That's the point of Pride Month. It's a huge celebration of who you're attracted to.
It used to be Pride Week, but they've expanded it.
It'll be Pride
Pride
Year,
Week was so aroused, they expanded it to Pride Month.
It's engorged Pride Week into Pride Month.
Yep.
But here's my point. We've put into our pocket the thing that we both agree upon, which is nobody cares. Who cares? Live and let live. But we live now in a different moment where that is not what is asked of anyone. And I want to expand this conversation, and it'll bring us back around to Harvey Milk, I think. Okay? And so I was listening. Well, no, I wasn't. I was scrolling, and I saw a clip from The View with Andy Cohen from Bravo TV talking to the ladies of The View, talking about, I think he's talking about Pride Month, but largely he's talking about the status of LGBTQ people living under Donald Trump. Watch this.
My message is it's time to fight. I mean, our community is under severe attack. And
that's right.
There are, I mean, every look at Project 2025. This is something that's actually happening, and it's not good for the LGBTQ community. The trans community is really under siege.
Okay. So he emphasized that last point several times. Is the point I want to take away, because the rest of that, like the Project 2025 stuff and all that, that's just like catnip stuff being thrown out that he knows a surface level of scratch marks on what it all means. But the point of that clip that got my attention is this narrative, this thought process. Subjectively believed or not, I don't know. But the LGBTQ community is under threat, under siege, under this administration. And like, were I sitting there, I think the question I would ask is, how? How are you under threat or under siege?
I don't know. I mean, I guess people feel more empowered to stand up for stuff that they had been silenced over for a long time. And that could be perceived as a threat. But, it's like I live a couple blocks from Hell's Kitchen, and things are thriving. Like, business is fantastic. The problem is, instead of focusing on the gains that we've made.
Wait. Are you talking about LGBTQ businesses in Hell's Kitchen?
Yeah. It's a gay part of New York. Hell's Kitchen.
But just as a quick aside,
okay.
When did that happen? Like, I lived in New York for 15 years. Mm-hmm. In the beginning of my 15 years of living in New York, it was Chelsea. Okay, in Hell's Kitchen. By the way, I read the book and loved the movie The Westies about the West Side Irish gangs in the 80s in Hell's Kitchen. And it was a rough neighborhood. But I feel like the Hell's Kitchen conversion, is that like within the past 5 years?
No, Hell's Kitchen
recent,
has been, that's been rocking for a while as a gay hub. But, as someone who enjoys the fruits of gentrification, I've always known that if you want an up-and-coming neighborhood, go where the gays have gone first. Because
they're always the pioneers.
they take sort of rundown neighborhoods and they revitalize them. And then once that happens, then you have, it's like you've got You've got gyms and cafes and clubs and bars. And they sort of paved the way. So I think they priced themselves out of the West Village, which now has become very dangerous. So then they went into Chelsea. But, if you think about it, like you start off your New York experience downtown, and then slowly you move up to Midtown because that's where all the office buildings are. So you've got a lot of young professional gays that don't want a long commute to work. So they settle on 9th and 10th Avenue, and then in the 40s and the lower 50s, and there you have it.
All right, so businesses are thriving, to your point. And so the question I have is, how are you under siege? How are you under threat?
This was the next point I was getting to. Instead of focusing on the gains and looking at someone like Scott Bessent, who happens to be really effective at his job and happens to be, one of the ninjas within the Trump administration who is doing a lot of really solid work, not necessarily seeking public accolades, and he also happens to be gay. And I thought that was the point of all of this, is like, when someone happens to be gay, that's awesome. And it's like when there are family members and community members and coworkers, that's great. Like, you don't have to hyper focus on it, but you can't create hysteria unless you hyper focus on everything. And everything has to be an emergency. Everything has to be a catastrophe on the left. So we just saw the survey came out about mental health and people self-reporting the state of their mental health and how it correlates to political stripe. And conservatives have reported like a 30% increase in their mental health. Their mental health has improved. Liberals' mental health has cratered. And that's because they believe the hype and hysteria. They believe that the hype and hysteria about Gaza and about climate change and about whether or not their particular community is actively under siege, and if it is dangerous for them just to step outside with any sort of rainbow garment on. I would argue that, as a straight person on the outside looking in who is an ally of my gay friends and neighbors, it looks like things have gotten better. And, for Andy Cohen to say that we are at war, we are under siege, we have to fight back. So what does that mean? Does that mean like the LGBTQ community against the hetero normies? Like, I don't want it to be like that. I want a society where we are incorporated and that we all take something from each other's communities, whether it's faith or gender or sexuality, whatever the case may be. But also, I don't follow my Jewish friends around in the building going, what's it like to be Jewish? Like, do you go to temple? Did you have a bat mitzvah?
Or celebrating, or at every moment celebrating the fact that they are Jewish. And so this is where we're going to go.
Do you love challah bread?
And I'm maintaining.
I have celiac disease. I can't eat challah bread. Do you have any gluten-free challah bread?
I love lox. See, I'm an ally.
I love gefilte fish. Shabbat shalom.
Nobody likes gefilte fish. Don't say that. That was a bad pull, Kennedy. We used to do a thing on the Will Cain Show, March Madness. You have to eat something gross, and we did have a jar of gefilte fish.
I don't mind it.
That was one of the things you had to do.
Herring, pickled halibut, like I'll eat it all.
But a bagel and cream cheese and lox, I mean,
that's delightful.
That makes me an ally. Yeah. Okay, I'm maintaining our conversational threads. I know exactly where we were and where we're going. I'm going to come back, but I'm going to indulge every diversion. And the diversion that I want to indulge for now, for one moment, is this poll you talked about. And it is fascinating. The mental health of the left versus the mental health of the right. You forwarded us the idea that it is a result of the left believing. I have taken to calling this the Handmaid's Tale dystopian vision of America. They believe the Project 2025 stuff. They believe all this stuff. And so naturally, they would be in a bad mental state, right? Donald Trump is president. Oh, my God, everything's terrible. However, I think there's two other ways to look at this poll. And for those of you that are listening, it just shows that, high rates of depression and I don't even know what other mental health issues reported at really high numbers for the left and really low numbers for the right. The big takeaway on many on the right is like the left is becoming the party of neurotics and depressives, But then I had Mary Catherine Ham on my show on the Fox News channel at 4:00 yesterday, and she said this, and I found it fascinating. There's also the fact that many on the left would be more willing to self-report mental health issues than people on the right because not only is it more socially acceptable to talk about your mental health issues, but it actually becomes a badge of honor. Like you just said, I have celiac disease. No. Like it becomes a thing on the left that I have whatever. I'm bipolar. I suffer from anxiety. All these things become virtues on the left. Like they're things that you say about yourself to gain some kind of credibility. And so therefore they'd more willingly put themselves down on a poll like this as in a really bad mental health state. And I found that fascinating, Kennedy.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And that's my problem with it, because I have suffered from debilitating anxiety and panic disorder in the past, and I worked really hard to get through it. And it was one of the things that kind of ended up defining me in my 20s and 30s was the ability to take a point in my life where I was so scared and so riddled with anxiety that it was almost impossible to function. But it was really important for me to get over that. And now when I talk to people about this stuff, I want to help them understand what they're going through. Don't ignore it. Don't try and squash it down, but get past it. Get to the other side of it. And that's what liberals don't want to do. They don't actually want to get help, because sometimes when you get help and you feel better, it's unsexy. You don't have as much to talk about, but when you are in the process, when you're ruminating in your neurosis and everything is completely dramatic. It's like I have 2 teenage girls. Yeah. It's like a society filled with teenage girls. And, they're amazing and I love them and I celebrate them. Not always entirely rational, sometimes exhausting. And, but our job as parents is to get them into adulthood, get them into a state where they are rational and functioning, and they see the path that they have traversed, and it has gotten them where they are truly meant to be. And that's how I feel about mental health. But they are stuck in this dramatic crisis, this constant crisis.
Yes. And
you cannot be effective on the left unless you keep people right there, because that's the only way to keep them in action.
I make a promise to the audience that I have not forgotten Harvey Milk and the naming of a Navy destroyer, and it being Pride Month. But again, I'm going to take this conversation everywhere it goes. For a moment, Kennedy referenced her 20s and 30s. Most of us remember Kennedy from MTV. Now, she was also on Gutfeld recently, and she got to talking about one of her early career expertises, and that is best rock singers. Here is Kennedy on Gutfeld.
Who's your favorite male rock singer?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do love David Lee Roth. James Mercer from the Shins is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
because
that's interesting.
He's got a really high range.
He knows how to do a melody that is so the only person I can think who could do that as well would be like Michael Stipe in the original, in the early days of REM.
Yes.
But David Lee Roth is a different singer. He has turned into a skinny old Jew. He's just like walking around. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, it seems like he might have done some drugs.
He's high on life, man.
All right, that is from Kennedy Saves the World. Correction, not from Gutfeld. It's Gutfeld as a guest on Kennedy Saves the World. Got to read my notes correctly. They abbreviated it, Kenny. KSTW.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
KSTW did not scream to me, Kennedy Saves the World, just like WCS doesn't scream to you, Will Cain Show.
Oh,
so
yes.
I'm sure.
That's what those texts have been. Should respond to them every once in a while.
It did bring up this idea of leaning on you, and I'll give you some of my thoughts on who do you think is. And I think this question is interesting because it's not who has the best voice, who's the most talented, right? It's for me, that's not what this debate is. It's not, I don't think Adele's going to be our answer, even though she's an amazing singer. But who's the best rock singer? And I think the interesting question is, okay, fine. By what criteria? Like, what do you think makes someone stand out as the best rock singer?
But that's what I love music is so subjective. And yes, there are objective elements where you listen to someone and you can tell they've got incredible pitch. And it's funny because I was having this argument with Ben Shapiro once because he hates rock music. And I was like, you don't understand it. Because when someone writes a beautiful poem and then they're able to take that poem and write a beautiful melody around it where the music conveys the meaning of the poetry even more effectively. And then you have someone with a beautiful voice who wrote that. And it's like they're revealing a part of their soul which touches yours as deeply as possible. And that's where people develop a connection to music that is beyond politics. It is beyond your station in life. It is beyond your age. And, it's like... Go ahead.
I knew Ben didn't like rap. I didn't know he didn't like rock.
He doesn't like it. He doesn't understand.
Classical music guy.
Yeah.
Does he not like anything modern? Like what about modern pop culture does Ben participate in? Does he like movies?
No, I think
some of the series we're all into?
My guess is he's terrified that it's Pandora's box. And if he opens it, then he's just going to go on Rumspringa. And he's never going to return to the good, solid, decent, conservative life that he's carved for himself.
Okay, but even though it's highly subjective, okay, I was thinking about this morning when I was thinking about this conversation with you. And music, in no way do I consider myself a musical expert, like in any way. I don't have a catalog of trivia. I'm not capable of calling upon my memory, even though I like and listen to a lot of different things, not just country. It just isn't something that sticks and stays with me in a way that a movie does. Quite honestly, yes. I can rattle off movie lines. That's what happens to me. I think it's the power of story for me, right? I'm just very into story. And so I remember lines from Days of Thunder and The Big Lebowski and all of these movies for Caddyshack, for my life, for eternity. Tombstone. But I just can't remember musicians. But I was thinking about this with you, and there's just some people's voices that the minute they come on, I'll give you an example. So my boys and I've had this long ongoing thing about rap, and they made the argument to me that Kanye is way better than the stuff I was trying to tell them about from like the 90s, like Dre and Snoop and Ice Cube. And then they played Kanye, and I got it. I'm like, oh, this dude's like really talented. We're setting aside everything else about Kanye. We're talking about music.
Before he lost his mind completely, he was very talented. Absolutely.
Like genius level.
Yes.
Like genius level, probably.
Painfully talented, yes.
But then yesterday they were in the car, and I wasn't even older. I said, let me tell you guys what I first started listening to in rap. And I played them like Eric B. and Rakim.
I was just going to say Eric B. and Rakim. Yes.
I did. And then, of course, we did like a little bit later stuff. They said, play Tupac and play Big. And I got to thinking, like, I'm actually not a big fan of Tupac as a rapper, but man, his voice is distinctive. There's something about his accent. It's the way he enunciates words is distinctive, and it draws you in. Snoop has the same thing. And Eminem is probably a better rapper than Snoop, but Snoop has this voice that you're like, yes, I that is so unique. And I'm curious what you think about that type of criteria when I immediately go to Eddie Vedder, right? In rock, like what a distinct person. No one would ever say is the best singing voice ever.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll give you a country music version of this.
Okay.
It's Willie Nelson.
Oh, yeah. I love Willie Nelson.
No one would say,
I love Willie Nelson.
Of course.
But he's an incredible songwriter. So he
totally
may not have like a Broadway caliber voice. I love his voice because I love his songs, and his voice has so much emotion, and it conveys so much. And this is a person that
that's what I'm talking
has
about,
experienced loss and pain. Like, I can't stand Bob Dylan's voice. And I don't care what he's been through. I will never like Bob Dylan's voice. I respect his music.
Right.
I respect his poetry. I feel the same way about Bruce Springsteen. I have never liked Bruce Springsteen's voice. And I'm sure there are people that are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and what they've been through and what comes out of them, because their songwriting is so painfully honest. And that's what makes an absolutely beautiful performer is someone who can stick the landing on that sweet spot of lyrics, music, and vocals.
Totally. So who is that in your mind? Like, give me who's top of mind in rock? And I think we've now established the criteria together. That's what I'm talking about. The Willie Nelson of rock.
So God, I still stick by James Mercer. I think that he is the lead singer of the Shins and Broken Bells, and he has the most beautiful melodic voice, and so many of his early songs especially are this almost adolescent longing, which is universal because no matter where you are in life, you can go right back to the first moment that you fell in love or the first moment that you had your heart broken. So I really respect that. I actually think that Trent Reznor is an incredible singer-songwriter performer because the performance for him is so critical. I love Chris Cornell's voice because when he was at his best, God rest his soul, he was a heavy metal singer. Like he didn't want to be grunge, whatever that was at the time. At James Hetfield, same thing. Like incredible voice, conveys so much, and you have to be, for me, I have to be in a very particular mood when I listen to Metallica, but it is so effective.
Yeah. I love that. It's the voice as an instrument, not just as a musical instrument, as a instrument that honestly seems to somehow connect. This sounds so highfalutin. Connect humanity. You made the right point with Willie. Whatever it is about his voice. Oh, I'll give you one. Ray Charles, I feel like, does this as well, and he's a great singer. But there's a way that he enunciates, the way he hits a note, the way he says a word. Like, listen to Seven Spanish Angels with those two together, and you're like, oh, my God, this is incredible. Okay, I've rounded the corner. I'm headed home. Okay, I want to ask you about this guy in San Antonio, Texas, Jonathan Joss. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yes.
I wasn't, but I'm familiar with King of the Hill. And he was a voice actor on King of the Hill. He was also a regular actor on Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, yep.
And he was murdered over the last couple of days in San Antonio. Now, the story as it originally comes out, and this is so circuitous, I'm going to try to get the details all right, is that he's a victim of a hate crime, that his murderer yelled homophobic stuff before killing him. The alleged murderer is a Latino dude in this area of San Antonio. And then the story comes out that the actor, Joss, has a lot of, it sounds like, super weird at a minimum, possibly mental health issues, as maybe more accurate. Neighbors say he carried a crossbow around, threatened the neighbor if he didn't like something. He thought that they were putting skulls of dogs in his yard. He thought he was being harassed. He thought this was happening, that was happening. The day that he was murdered, I think he said he might have had a pitchfork he was carrying around the neighborhood. His significant other,
his husband,
we're going to go with for right now.
Yeah.
Okay, his husband, but that requires me. Okay. Right. His significant other claims it's homophobia because says they were gay.
They got married. Like, according to the husband, they got married at the courthouse. They went to Houston and got married.
But you know that the husband was actually a woman, right? Taking testosterone. Is that news to you, or are you telling me, are you choosing?
I didn't know that. I don't know that changes the facts of the story and how I feel about it. No, I mean, it's like.
Well, hold on. No. It doesn't change the facts, but it changes. So.
Spouse.
First of all,
so it was his spouse. So they were married,
and she was taking testosterone to become a man.
Yeah,
and that make them
or
gay?
An Olympic boxer.
So is that how? That's how that's supposed. So they're claiming homophobic. They're gay, but yet she's a woman. You see
I know,
what I'm
but like,
here?
so if she's a woman but living as a man, married to a man,
now
so
they
feel like they're a gay couple, and they maybe present outwardly as a gay couple. And then
I think this is fascinating. This part of the story, it's a sad story. This part, you know what, Kennedy, I would actually like to bring a mutual gay friend of ours in, whoever that may be, guy, whoever, and be like, here's this couple. Are they gay?
Yeah.
Because
but see, that's
like
I guess I feel the way about this that I do about religion. Like when Mitt Romney was running for president in 2012, everyone's like, he's not a Christian, he's a Mormon. And he's like, I'm a Christian. And I'm like, if the guy feels like he's a Christian, like, let him be a Christian. And, it's like, if this person is like transitioning and becoming a man and taking testosterone and, getting things cut off and put on and who knows what, then and living as a man, that's like, that's fine. You want to be a guy? Like, I don't care. As long as I don't have to pay for it and my tax money doesn't go to it. And as long, if you're a jerk to me, then yes, we have a problem. But other than that, I don't.
Remember what I have in my pocket. That point I have in my pocket from the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah.
I don't care. We both agree.
Yeah.
And I think most people listening agree. I don't care. However, that's in our pocket. We're going to come back to that in a minute. The details of this story, and I think it's an interesting thing, and I actually don't think it's... Well, it does matter because they are claiming it's homophobia. The police have said there's no evidence of a hate crime. Instead, it's all this other details that I share at the top that it's just
but there was,
whatever.
But also
wild, weird, terrorizing.
The husband said that the neighbors were so mean to them and so homophobic that they would go outside late at night and scream and play drums.
I know, I saw this.
I would have that is not grounds for shooting someone in the head. Absolutely not. But if I had a neighbor who is outside, I like to go to sleep at 10. And if I live in New York City, there's noise. But if I had someone outside playing drums and screaming, I might sick the dogs on them too.
Yes. Okay. But we're getting there.
That would really. But that's the golden rule. Don't hurt people. Don't take their stuff. You are hurting someone by depriving them of sleep. You are not solving anything. You are making a situation much, much worse. That is not to say that someone deserves to die over that.
No.
There is obviously some fanning of the flames here, and also Jonathan Joss, who played John Redcorn on King of the Hill, was somehow his house in San Antonio was deemed unlivable, so they cut off all the power. So he was barbecuing inside his living room, and his house burned down. Yes. But he said that his neighbor burned his house down. He claims the
neighbor has set it up right.
And the fire inspector's like, hey, something happened here. There's definitely human involvement. That's all we can say at this point. I don't necessarily think it was a neighbor. I think you had probably a very frustrated neighbor, but you also had someone who was, at best, unwell. And it's very sad because I have known Mike Judge for 33 years. We worked together at MTV. When I started Alternative Nation, that's when he started Beavis and Butthead. I've known him for a long, long time. He is an absolute genius, and my heart goes out to him because all he wants to do is create art that is escapism. And maybe it takes a snapshot of where we are right now as human beings and points out the utter absurdity. And I feel really, really bad that his reboot of King of the Hill might be derailed because of this. And I know that he is so invested in all of his actors. I've not spoken to him, but I know this has to cause him a tremendous amount of pain because all he wants to do is make the world laugh, make the world think a little bit while pointing out how insanely ridiculous this all is.
Okay, I can bring it home, I think. So I agree with all the things that you said. None of this, by the way, none of this discussion has anything to do with excusing a murder. He was shot in the head, he was killed.
Awful.
And that's horrific. The details of what was going on in this neighborhood and the conditions under which Joss was living, both with his spouse and in his home, to your point, and the way he was interacting with his neighbors, it's all, insane. It's all insane. I think what I come back to and how this takes me back to Harvey Milk in some way is this. This significant other seems to believe that cloaking whatever awful thing happened in claims of homophobia or hatred makes this somehow a different story than a tragedy or even simply a horrific crime. And we've arrived at this place where the thing I've been holding in my back pocket or my front pocket that I said I would pull out that I agree with you on, live and let live, I don't care. I judge people as individuals. I judge you on your character and your merit and your personality, not your sexual mores. I don't care who you're attracted to. No longer is enough. And as we are sitting here in Pride Month and we're watching Hegseth take away this thing from the Navy with Harvey Milk's name, what it acknowledges, what it highlights to me, there's another little story, Kennedy, where Carl Nassib, and by all accounts, what I can tell, Carl Nassib's a great guy. He plays defensive end, Las Vegas Raiders, and I think he's going to be now enshrined
Emily Compagno loves them.
he's going to be in the Smithsonian, and he's one of the first openly gay football players, right? So now he's going to have this thing at the Smithsonian, right?
That's exciting.
And it's like, okay, right, but we're celebrating Carl's sexuality. And I get that there's an element of his openness is a thing that people celebrate as brave.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not enough that we go, hey, that's cool. Okay, you're gay. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. My producer just texted me when we were talking. He said, I didn't realize Bessent was gay. I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
I knew that. But like, to your point, a lot of people don't realize it because the requirement today, Kennedy, is to celebrate. It is if you don't celebrate, you're a hater. If you remove the name or if you decline to put the name, then you have something against.
Yeah, but could you see
Pride Month?
Could you
it's
see
all
Andy
a display.
Cohen
Pride
celebrating?
Month is all a display of.
But Andy Cohen would never celebrate Scott Bessent. He would never be like, oh, and isn't it amazing?
It's a great point.
Our Treasury Secretary, like, if he were really celebrating the thing that was implicit to his being, he would reach across the aisle and be like, see, but that would be an admission that things are getting better. Yeah.
I agree.
And neither does Scott Bessent.
That just shows Andy's hypocrisy and partisanship. But what I'm getting at is to get to this final place where we are healthy. And I think you and I agree on this, though. We've got to move back away from if you don't celebrate, if you don't name, if you don't enshrine in a hall, if you don't do these things, then you are not an ally, or you're not a friend, or you're even a hater. And it's got to get to the place, I think, where we treat everyone like we have treated Scott Bessent. Oh,
amen.
Interesting detail.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Interesting nugget. It has, I would say, of all the interesting things about Scott Bessent, it is at the 10% and below proposition on everything else about Scott Bessent that I find interesting.
And I love that he's not Janet Yellen.
Yeah, right. And I don't know. That's where I come back to the Harvey Milk thing. It's like, okay, Hegseth doesn't think it's appropriate. I don't know why it was named after Harvey Milk in the first place, meaning being an openly gay politician and pushing for things in San Francisco. Does that warrant us to celebrate? And if you don't celebrate, are you a hater? I don't know. I guess I just think that it's become something more than the ask of live and let live.
Mm-hmm. I don't mind keeping Harvey Milk. Ruth Bader Ginsburg does not need a Navy ship named after her. Name a bridge after her. There are plenty of things. Name an airport. There are plenty of things you can name after Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
All right. Kennedy saves the world. You get more great clips like that conversation you had with Greg Gutfeld. I love the back and forth, and I love it when we find things that I don't think we disagree. It's just maybe sometimes we see them with different
but see, that's fine. Like
our
politics don't have to mesh completely. Like that's where people are so far off base. They think, well, if you don't agree with every single element at every point I'm making, then you are literally Hitler. And that's the problem with society. It's okay to have even subtle disagreements.
And I hate both sides stuff. Yes. I hate both sides, but I'll tell you this. I got a tweet yesterday. Why are you so liberal? And I was like, literally that I'm the most liberal show on Fox. I was like, really?
It's because you love the gays so much, Will.
Yeah, right. All right, check her out at Kennedy Saves the World at Fox News Podcast. Kenny, I love having you on the show. Thank you. So, by the way, so does my wife. My wife loves it when you're on my show. So thank you. All right, there she goes, Kennedy. Again, subscribe at Kennedy Saves the World. Let's take a quick break and let's talk about how is it the New York Knicks fire Tom Thibodeau and the Dallas Stars? Are they flirting with firing Pete DeBoer? And I know for many of you, you're like, who, what? But here's the thing. If your coach takes your team to the Final Four, under what circumstances do you say goodbye? Next on The Will Cain Show.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network. Listen to the all-new Bret Baier podcast featuring Common Ground, talking to lawmakers weekly from opposite sides of the political spectrum about the issues of the day and how Americans can find common ground in a politicized world.
That's just not happening on Capitol Hill. It takes leadership, right?
Yeah.
With all your Bret Baier favorites like the campaign, the candidates, the all-star panel, and much more. Available now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
it's Rachel Campos-Duffy. Join me for Fox Noticias, a show that breaks down the news of the day with a focus on the kitchen table issues that matter most to our community. Politics, the economy, immigration, and cultural trends. Weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on Fox Deportes and available at noticias.foxnews.com, the Fox Noticias YouTube page, and Fox Nation. Or listen and follow the podcast at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Kudlow on Fox Business is now on the go for podcast fans. Download the Kudlow Show podcast every weekday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com. Kudlow covers the latest headlines and business trends with an emphasis on the financial impact facing households and businesses across the country. Listen to interviews with key business newsmakers. The Kudlow podcast will be available on the go after the show every weekday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
Tom Thibodeau fired as head coach of the New York Knicks. Rumblings about Pete DeBoer with the Dallas Stars. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Let's bring in Tinfoil Pat, and we don't have a nickname for Matt yet, but Matt's been around our show for a couple of years. Is this your first time filling in, Matt, for two-a-days?
This is my first time sitting behind.
Are you two-a-days boss?
No. I am a moral support guy for Dan. That's about it.
I feel like you're his boss.
No.
Not sure.
Not even remotely close.
And your first time sitting in today.
Yes.
Filling in for two-a-days. Tinfoil is not even responding to texts.
Yeah, what'd you guys do to him?
Well, he got up early to tell me he was going to be out. So he's probably
And there's some big things I've been asking about. There's some big things I've been asking about on text, and he has ghosted me. Including, I'm going to tell the audience, there is some conversation right now about the name of this program that we're all watching and listening to. Will Cain Show. Is it confusing? Here's a question for you. I'll tell you what. Will you do this for me? Will you drop into the comment section right now? YouTube, Facebook, wherever. I'm going to collect your comments. We're going to come back to this. Is it confusing that both the online streaming and podcast and radio version of this show is called The Will Cain Show, and then a separate television show on the Fox News channel is also called The Will Cain Show? Admittedly, it's become a little clunky for me to reference the other show when I'm on one of the shows. I have taken to saying The Will Cain Show on the Fox News channel or the Will Cain Digital Show. And that's a little clunky. So there is some discussion of brand differentiating the two shows, right? Tinfoil Pat wants to name it Raising Will Cain, I think. Or Will Cain America. Or what's some other things that have been mentioned?
These were ideas from 3 years ago.
Go ahead, Tinfoil.
These are 3 year ago ideas.
Right. But
yes,
I've been reluctant to do so, but I get it. I get the confusion. I am curious as we sit here and talk if any executives are like, why is he talking about this? And the answer for anyone listening is because this is what I do. We talk about it together.
Really glad you brought me on for this segment.
Things. Yeah, what do you think, doll? What do you think? Go ahead and register your vote right now.
What are my
options? I can
options?
promise you that there are some executives listening.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm thrilled. You decided, hey, Matt, let's turn your camera on today. Why not? You're just filling in for Dan. We can throw you on the train tracks. No big deal.
Go ahead. What do you want to name the show, doll? You're going to do it right now. For every executive listening, it's about to be renamed right now by Matt Dahl.
Cain Country. Because what were you? What did you say, Patrick? Will Cain America?
Yeah, that was one of the original
tells
ones.
me
Will Cain America?
He did not. He didn't pull it out of a hat. Very safe touche play by Matt Dahl there. But I am curious your thoughts in the comment section. Do you find it confusing? And if you do, and this show were to take on a slightly different name, we're not going completely different. There was some talk, by the way, Tinfoil, of should we name this show, should we just name it The Willisha? A very divisive name, by the way. There are some of my friends that executive levels at Fox that do not like that name that I have taken to call in the audience. But if we did, I'm willing to accept some of your suggestions. So drop right into the comment section right now. Let me know what you think. Do you find it confusing? And if we rename it, what do you like? In fact, I'm disappointed I didn't do this earlier, because if there's anybody that I respect on these things, and there are a lot of people that I respect, that's the truth. A lot of people here at Fox, some friends that I have in the business that are not, and other places, but I am not being gratuitous or kiss ass when I say I respect you, like a lot. You who are listening, you who tune in every day, you who are a part of the militia. So I'm here to listen to what your thoughts are on the naming of this show. Tinfoil, you were the one that texted in during the conversation with Kennedy. You didn't know that Scott Bessent was gay?
That's true. I did not know.
Isn't that interesting? I don't think you're alone, by the way. And you're a pretty astute and in-tuned news watcher. News. You're plugged into the cycle. And I'm going to bet that a lot of people don't know that. So I guess we're not going to see Scott Bessent, out at a Pride March this June. It is pretty interesting the way that he has handled that versus the way that it's asked to handle it. We are asked to handle it in I do believe what I said to Kennedy in public American discourse right now. It's like, without celebration, it is denial, and I don't think that's healthy for anybody. I think others don't run around, I don't think. I mean, sex is a big part of conversation in society, and heterosexual sex, I'm sure, dominates it in a lot of ways. It's in movies, it's everywhere. But I don't think people walk around demanding you celebrate their sexuality. I don't think we should. All right, let's move to the New York Knicks. They have fired head coach Tom Thibodeau after making the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, I don't get it. I don't think the Knicks had a right, and I'm not taking a shot at Knicks fans. I don't think you had a right to expect more. I don't think you can look at this season as a disappointment. I think you have to, as a sports fan, learn to appreciate your moments in your ride. And I can say this with experience and experience that is running simultaneously to the Knicks. And that is as a fan of the Dallas Stars. I am disappointed they didn't make the Stanley Cup, but I still think it was a great ride. Originally, the owner of the Dallas Stars said, why would I fire Pete DeBoer? He's one of the top 5 coaches in the NHL, and those don't grow on trees. And he's absolutely right. But there's now some rumblings, and I don't get it. And it made me think about, as Tinfoil and I were talking about this morning, English soccer. For that matter, Italian, Spanish, German soccer. When I first became a soccer some 10-plus years ago, one thing I noticed that was really odd that you don't see, for example, in the NFL, is a coach win it all and lose his job within a year. Sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years. You're like, you win the Super Bowl, you get a 5-year contract extension. You are around and you've got goodwill and you've got a leash for a while, but not in soccer. Like, that's great. What have you done for me lately? And the argument usually is, well, he lost the locker room. The players no longer hear him anymore. The message isn't resonating. And I think that can be objectively true, but it also acknowledges that players are the more important factor than the coach. So here's what I think the takeaway is, Tinfoil. I'm curious what you think. You don't see that in the NFL because the coach is more important than the players, outside of one player, the quarterback. And that's only a few quarterbacks. That's not all 32 of them. The coach is the most important consistent element. In soccer and the NBA, the players are more important. And if you've lost the ability to control the locker room and have the players hear you, the coach becomes interchangeable. Tom Thibodeau has a history, by the way, of he grates on players. He's a hard guy to be around. He's tough. He's a good coach. But you can imagine after some time, that grates, that loses. And by the way, I've heard I don't know this, but I've heard that Pete DeBoer is a similar style of coach. With players. So I'm wondering if what we're not seeing in these two sports is similar to what I've seen play out in soccer. And I don't know if the NHL and hockey are like the NBA and soccer, where the players are more important than the coach. I think the coach is really important in hockey. But I think that's what's going on in what seems inane in firing a coach who made it to the Final Four. Tinfoil.
First, in hockey, they do fire their coaches quite often. Like if you have early season stumbles, they'll fire them pretty quickly. But in the NFL, back in the 90s, I grew up with Tom Coughlin, and I always knew he was a top 5 coach in the NFL. And he went to multiple AFC championship games. So he was at least a top 4 guy, but then he lost the locker room and he got fired.
Same kind of guy.
Yeah. And he was a tough guy, really tough guy. I do think you can grade on players and at any sport, and sometimes you need change. And he went and changed and ended up winning 2 Super Bowls out of it. So same thing with Andy Reid. He was like a guy who would hit that top 4, sometimes top 2 ceiling with the Eagles, and just needed a little change of scenery, and future Hall of Fame quarterback, and
yeah, that was key. In Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I get your point. Like, does anybody look at Marv Levy and go, wow, what a loser? Marv Levy, who went to 4 Super Bowls with the Buffalo Bills. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. And you fire, he didn't get fired, but you're firing coaches now who are doing things that 90%, literally 90% of your league would kill for to get to these places that these guys have gotten to on a consistent basis. Maybe not for Thibodeau necessarily, but for DeBoer. Like, DeBoer has been what? You had the stat the other day. 6 of the last 7 Western Conference Finals with 3 different teams. The Sharks, the Knights, and the Stars.
Exactly.
That's a heck of a thing to walk away from if you're saying, yeah, we just need a different voice. And I think the Knicks need to be careful here. Walking away, I mean, it's too late. They've already done so, but they've walked away from somebody who's done what, if not 90, 85% of the rest of the league would kill for to make the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, that's going to do it for us today. I will read your comments, so drop it in the comment section. I sincerely want your feedback. What do you think about the name of the Will Cain Show? We'll see you again tomorrow, same place, same time, next time.